The pie hit me square in the face, cold, sticky, and loaded with whatever off-brand whipped cream they used for this stupid roast. I froze for a second. It dripped down my chin onto the collar of the navy pantsuit I'd saved for 6 months to afford, my only tailored suit, and now it looked like a toddler's birthday cake. The ballroom at the Hilton went dead silent for a second. Then came the laughter. Loud, echoing, almost rehearsed. Some of it from people I used to work side by side with. A few coworkers looked away like they felt bad, but not bad enough to say anything. Curtis stood at the podium, still holding the mic like he was Chris Rock at the Oscars. Guess we know who cleaned up dessert at her last job, huh? Don't worry, she's qualified. Nobody handles a mop like our little innovation queen. That smug bastard smiled wide, knowing damn well what he was doing. He'd always hated that I came up through the floor crews, janitorial, maintenance, warehouse, did it all. Built my way into product testing, then engineering. But that didn't fit his country club fantasy of who belongs in management. I wiped my face slowly with the cloth napkin from the table. Didn't cry, didn't speak, just stood there, breathing hard, heart slamming so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Then, from somewhere near the front, I heard it. I think that's enough. It was Kendra from corporate finance, except now she wasn't just from finance. She was walking up to the mic, calm as ever in her black heels and red blazer. Curtis laughed nervously. Kendra, we were just having a little... She cut him off. Let me be clear. Effective today, I've stepped down from my role in finance. I'm the new president of Dynafix. Just got confirmation this morning from Mr. Morgan. You could have heard a paperclip hit the floor. Then Mr. Morgan himself, old, frail, but still sharp, rolled up next to her with a cordless mic. That's correct. The board approved it last week. Kendra was my recommendation. And she's not the only change. All eyes turned to me. Curtis stuttered. Wait, what the hell is this? Kendra smiled at me. You ready? I stepped forward, pie still clinging to my suit. Yeah, I'm ready. Quick note, before we go on, tell us which city or country you're watching from. Curtis tried to speak again, but this time, no one listened. Mr. Morgan gestured toward the crowd. This is the team that kept Dynafix alive. And starting now, the people who built it will lead it. Curtis dropped the mic back on the podium and stormed off stage. I turned to Kendra. Let's get to work. We walked straight past the dessert table. We didn't stop walking until we were off stage and through the side hallway. I could still feel the pie sticking to my cheekbone. Kendra handed me a towel without saying anything. I took it and wiped hard, then finally let out a breath that had been stuck in my chest for years. That hallway? That was where this whole thing started. 10 years back, when I was scrubbing oil off the concrete outside the shipping docks. I was 22, no degree, just a high school diploma, a busted Ford, and 3 uniforms I rotated every week. I started on night shift janitorial at Dynafix's East Chicago warehouse, paid just enough to keep the lights on. I kept my head down, did my job, and stayed late whenever someone else didn't show. But I wasn't just cleaning. I was watching, listening. You'd be amazed what you can pick up when no one thinks you matter. I noticed the same 3 repairs kept happening on a tool we shipped out monthly. I sketched a fix in a notebook I kept in my back pocket. Simple, cheap, and safer. One night, I slipped that sketch into the maintenance manager's mailbox. 2 weeks later, Mr. Morgan showed up on the floor. He looked tired, wearing one of those oversized corduroy blazers with elbow patches, but his eyes sharp as hell. He held up my notebook page like it was a damn blueprint from NASA. "Who wrote this?" he asked. I thought I was about to be fired. Instead, he walked me up to the R&D floor, told them to give me an observer badge, said, "She sees problems the rest of you keep stepping over." That was how it started. I learned fast, real fast. I didn't have letters after my name, but I knew tools, how people actually use them, what broke, what failed. I helped redesign 3 core products over the next 4 years. Our customer returns dropped, revenue climbed, people started saying we were innovating again. But guess whose names showed up on the patents? Not mine. And I let it go at first. I figured, earn your place, keep your head down. It'll come. It didn't. Then Morgan got sick. Cancer, bad and fast. Curtis stepped in. He had a sales background, 0 interest in engineering. Slick talker, wore designer watches, and drove a leased Jaguar. He never liked me. I wasn't polished enough. I didn't look executive. And the second he got a sliver of power, he used it. Week 1, he called me into a meeting and said we were restructuring. said my unique skill set would be better used in supply and inventory. They moved me into a windowless supply room with a busted chair and a folding table. I asked about my R&D projects. He shrugged, said they were being reevaluated. Then he reassigned my designs, gave them to engineers he liked better. One day, I logged into our design server. My access was gone, and the project files stripped of my name. Every patent I'd contributed to, gone from my record. I went to Morgan. He was already in treatment by then, but still sharp. He listened, nodded slowly, didn't say much. What I didn't know was that he'd already started documenting everything Curtis did. Emails, voice memos, internal approvals, even board conversations. He didn't trust Curtis either. I kept working. I didn't quit. I showed up every day to that supply room and started organizing the disaster of a system no one had touched in years. I built out tracking sheets, flagged bad shipments, caught mislabeled products before they went out the door. I was invisible again, but I didn't stop. Morgan passed away a year before the roast. But before he died, he left Kendra a sealed envelope and a thumb drive. She told me later, he'd spent his last year making sure the board had a clear record of what really happened. Who built what? Who stole credit? And who actually kept this place running? When the board finally looked at that evidence, they knew what they had to do. They made Kendra president, and her first act was to bring me back to the top where I belonged. No titles stolen this time. No name left off the patents. Not again. The next morning, I showed up early. Didn't even take the elevator. Walked straight up the 4 flights to the executive floor, still wearing the same suit. I'd gotten it dry cleaned overnight. I wasn't about to let one ruined jacket stop me. Curtis was already there, camped out by the glass double doors like he owned the place, arms crossed, face red, pacing like a caged dog. The second he saw me, he pounced. "You don't have the authority to lock me out of my own office." I slid my new access badge across the scanner. The light turned green. I pushed the door open without looking at him. "You were reassigned. Office moves with the role. That's how it works." He followed me in, slamming the door behind him. "This is a hostile takeover. The board's going to hear about this. I've already spoken to my legal team." "Good. I hope they read your contract out loud to you. Page 11, Clause 3. You're still an employee, which means you fall under Morgan's org restructure. Effective immediately, you're head of warehouse logistics." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "You're joking." "Nope." "You're putting a senior exec in charge of forklifts? Better than someone who fakes innovation for a living." He looked like he might actually lunge at me. Investors aren't going to back a technician with no pedigree. That word again. Technician, like it was dirt on his shoe. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. They'll back results. You've got a 6-figure retention package tied to staying on through Q4. You want to walk? That's your call. He didn't move, didn't quit, just stood there, jaw clenched. I walked around him and opened the file cabinet behind the desk, Morgan's old one. Top drawer, center folder. I pulled out a leather-bound notebook with his initials on the front. Curtis's eyes flicked down to it. "You're not qualified to run culture," he said. "This company needs structure." I flipped open the notebook without answering. Inside was Morgan's plan, 15 pages of notes and diagrams. His handwriting was cramped but clear. He'd outlined a full overhaul. Rotating leadership roles, department cross-training, bottom-up evaluations, team-led innovation reviews. He'd built it like an engine. Every gear depended on every other. No more ivory towers, no more executives hiding in corner offices while everyone else did the real work. Curtis sneered. "You're going to break the company," I smiled. "Not break, rewire." He stormed out, muttering something about calling his lawyer again. I didn't stop him. By noon, I'd already met with HR and Kendra. We mapped out the start of the overhaul. Every department head, including Curtis, would rotate into a different branch of the company for 1 quarter every year. Everyone, no exceptions. Finance would work the floor. Engineering would take support calls. Executives would pack boxes and run live demos. They pushed back, of course, said it'd never work. Too messy, too risky. I listened. Then I pointed to the board, minutes approving Morgan's succession plan. This was his final project, and it's already in motion. After they left, I sat alone in that office, looking around at the space I'd never even been allowed to visit without an escort. It still smelled like Morgan's cologne. Some woodsy, old-school stuff. The framed patents on the wall were all names I recognized. None of them were mine. But that was about to change for everybody. No more pretending only the loudest voices had the best ideas. No more stolen credit. No more hiding behind fake titles. We were going to build something real this time. And if they wanted to stop me, they'd have to beat me on the floor, just like I started. By the end of that first week, the memo went out. Ground floor rotation initiative, mandatory participation. Every Dynafix employee, including directors and C-suite, would spend 1 week per quarter in a different department. Warehouse, tech support, field repairs. Sales calls, you name it. Everyone was getting their boots dirty. The reactions were instant. Warehouse crews clapped when I walked by. One guy from manufacturing actually hugged me, arms covered in grease, no hesitation. Finally, he said, they're going to see what it's actually like down here. Tech support ran a betting pool on how long the execs would last answering phones. But upstairs, pure panic. Curtis submitted an official complaint to HR within hours, called the plan a reckless experiment that subjects salaried professionals to manual labor and undue risk. I wrote back one line: risk builds understanding. Understanding builds solutions. He didn't respond. Instead, weird stuff started happening. Orders went missing. Labels came out of the printers with half the barcodes wrong. Inventory requests got rerouted to the wrong locations. Nothing huge, but constant, annoying. Just enough to create noise. One shipment went to Denver instead of Dallas. Took 3 days to catch it. IT blamed a server sync issue. Nobody could explain why it only happened after the rotation program launched. Then Ava showed up at my office, shut the door behind her, and didn't sit. I think Curtis is moving against you, she said. I didn't blink. That obvious? I'm hearing things, not from his mouth. He's not dumb. But there's chatter. Directors being told you're going to turn the company into a blue-collar playground. That you're going after exec pay next? Are they listening? She shrugged. Some are. The ones with stock to protect. Ava wasn't one of them. She'd been with the company longer than Curtis, didn't care about title games. Quiet, smart, methodical. People underestimated her. That was a mistake. I leaned back in the chair. I figured they'd resist. But sabotage, that's fast. You're shaking the tree, she said. They've been climbing it for years. They're scared. Good. She raised an eyebrow. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. See, I knew this wouldn't go smooth. I knew I was stepping into a hornet's nest, but if Curtis wanted to fight dirty, I wasn't playing defense. I just needed results. And we were getting them. Fast. After just 2 weeks of rotations, warehouse errors dropped by 10%. Field techs reported tighter communication. Product testers flagged issues earlier. One of the execs who shadowed customer service came to me red-faced after a caller ripped him to shreds about a broken latch. I had no idea people were this pissed, he said. Exactly, but Curtis kept pushing. He rallied 3 other directors to request an urgent leadership review with the board, claimed the rotation policy was tanking morale, said I was making decisions based on personal vendettas instead of strategy. The board didn't bite, not yet, but they scheduled a check-in, so I sent them proof. Graphs, feedback, cost savings, worker testimonials, video clips of executives learning to run power tools for the first time. One guy tripped over a cordless vacuum and broke the suction arm, then ordered 24 replacements himself after seeing how fast it cleaned aisle shelves. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just kept showing the work. And when another barcode misprint jammed the East Coast line for 2 days, I didn't scream. I walked into Curtis's new logistics office, handed him the report, and said, "Fix it. That's your lane now." He smiled like he didn't care, but his eye twitched. That was enough. I knew he wasn't finished. The disruptions weren't random. They were signals. But I didn't pull back. You want to break my system? You better build a better one first. Until then, I was betting on the people who actually kept this place alive. Right after I left Curtis's office, I headed to the 5th floor for what was supposed to be a 15-minute check-in about our national convention booth. It turned into a war. The marketing lead, Drew, walked me through their plan like it was groundbreaking. Same tool models, same colors, same demo scripts we used last year and the year before that. The only new thing was a slideshow with some minor spec tweaks. I stared at the mock-ups. This is it? Drew nodded, proud. Consistent branding, reliable messaging. We're playing it safe, no last-minute surprises. I looked around the room. 3 other execs sat there, nodding like bobbleheads. Then it hit me. Where's the product development team in this? Drew blinked. Uh, they weren't included. Curtis advised us to stick with proven models. He flagged some of the newer designs as unstable. I didn't even respond. I just stood up and walked straight to the prototype lab. Most of the engineers were gone for the day, but Cam, one of our senior designers, was still there, eating cold pizza over a circuit board. Tell me something, I said. How many new designs got shelved this year? He raised his eyebrows. You mean how many Curtis rejected? Exactly. He pointed to a locked cabinet in the back. Whole drawer full. We cracked it open. Inside, gold, a self-leveling mount system with laser guidance, a multi-angle driver built for tight spaces, a smart stud finder that paired with a mobile app to track load-bearing zones in real time. Why were these killed? I asked. Cam shrugged. Too risky, too different, too expensive to prototype. Not anymore. The next morning, I called a meeting. R&D manufacturing, QA, logistics. No suits, no directors. Just the people who knew how to build. I laid it out. We've got 7 weeks until the convention. I want 3 working prototypes, tested, branded, show-ready. Double pay for anyone working overtime. All of it's voluntary. Cam jumped in. We'll need parts fast. Some of these designs are half-baked. Then we bake them, I said. A few people hesitated. The rest started sketching right there on the whiteboard. Word spread fast. Execs grumbled. Said I was chasing a fantasy. That we'd blow the budget, embarrass ourselves in front of buyers. Curtis called it amateur hour in a staff email he thought I wouldn't see. He was betting on failure. Again. But the floor teams, they showed up. People stayed past midnight. Took weekend shifts. One of the welders brought his teenage son to help run prints through the label machine. The guy from QA who never talked to anyone brought donuts every Saturday. It felt like building something real again. I watched Cam take a broken hinge design, rework the pivot angle, and cut our assembly time by half. He high-fived the machine tech who spotted the flaw. I saw one of our youngest coders rewire the smart stud finder to read through tile without interference. We weren't just making tools, we were reclaiming our spark. Curtis kept running his mouth. One day, he cornered me in the break room. You're gambling with our reputation. No, I said. I'm investing in people you've ignored. He laughed. You think a few gadgets will save your little blue-collar revolution? I smiled. Wait and see. We finished the prototypes 3 days before the convention deadline. The smart stud finder passed every test. The mount system held 30% more weight than our old one. The multi-angle driver outperformed our best-selling model on torque, size, and battery life. The final night before shipping, I walked through the lab and watched the team pack them into custom cases. Black foam, tight fit, labeled by hand, no suits, no speeches, just grease, sweat, and pure pride. We didn't need Curtis's approval. We had results, and we were just getting started. The convention center in Phoenix was already packed when we rolled our booth crates in. Fluorescent lights, company banners hanging like battle flags, every brand out to flex. But for once, we had something to show. Real innovation, built from scratch. Cam and Ava helped run setup. The self-leveling mount system was mounted on a transparent wall so people could see the internal stabilizers in action. The multi-angle driver was hooked to a custom demo rack. Visitors could twist and turn it through obstacle builds. The smart stud finder had a tablet display showing live wall scans. Buyers stopped in their tracks. By noon, we had a crowd 4 deep. Tech bloggers took videos. A rep from Homeway asked for a private demo. 2 competitors sent their guys over in badges they thought we wouldn't notice. And Curtis? He showed up late, dressed like he'd come to a golf outing, talking into his Bluetooth headset like he was too busy to care. But I saw him watching. By hour 3, he was on the phone in the back corner of the booth. The next time I looked up, Miss Talia from the board was walking straight toward me, tight smile, sharp eyes. Got a minute? We stepped behind the display wall, out of earshot. I just got off a call with Curtis, she said. He claims these tools were never budgeted or approved through proper channels. He says you greenlit a rogue R&D project and blew through reserves. I pulled the folder from my bag before she even finished. I knew this was coming. Here's the budget breakdown, I said, flipping to the first page. Labor was voluntary, paid through pre-approved overtime funds. Materials came from existing inventory, cleared by CAM and purchasing. Prototypes were assembled using repurposed equipment. Total spend, 31% under standard launch cost. She raised an eyebrow. I turned the page again. Here's the email chain confirming board-approved participation in the convention. Signed off by you, Morgan's final draft policy, and legal. She took the folder, flipped through it slowly. And the tech? It's safe? Tested, certified, filed for provisional patents last week. Talia looked over her glasses. You know, Curtis told us this whole rotation experiment would crash the company. I nodded toward the booth. Looks like we're still flying. She didn't smile, but she gave a single nod. Let's see how the rest of the day plays out. I walked back out and found a literal line waiting to try the mount system. Cam was giving a demo to a product reviewer with 500,000 followers. Ava was answering questions from a regional chain buyer who said he hadn't seen a stud finder that accurate in 10 years. Then the speaker system crackled to life. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We're proud to announce this year's Best in Show award goes to Dynafix Booth 218 for their full suite innovation in home installation tools. The team exploded. Cam jumped up and actually fist pumped like a kid. Ava just grinned and clapped. Someone hugged me. Might have been one of the welders from back home, couldn't even tell. And Curtis? He stood just outside the booth, jaw tight, arms crossed, trying to act like he didn't hear the announcement blasting over the loudspeakers. He didn't clap, didn't speak, but his glare said everything. I didn't need applause. I didn't need credit. We won because we built something better. And I wasn't done yet. 3 days after the convention win, I got the calendar invite. Board review. Dynafix leadership stability. Urgent. No subject line. No explanation. Just 10 a.m., glass conference room, full board. I showed up early. Curtis was already inside, flipping through a thick binder like he was auditioning for a damn courtroom drama. He didn't look at me when I walked in, just tapped his pages once and said, "About time someone asked the hard questions." Miss Talia sat at the head of the table. "Curtis, you requested this meeting. You have the floor." He stood like he'd rehearsed it. "I've compiled a full report on the chaos this company's fallen into since the leadership shift. Organizational confusion, burnout, strategic drift, executives sidelined by unproven labor schemes, decision-making without structure or pedigree." I didn't flinch. He flipped a page. "We've had protocol violations, budget overruns, and a disregard for standard hierarchy that undermines the brand's image." He held up a slide showing a blurred photo of a senior VP holding a wrench on the warehouse floor. "This isn't leadership. This is theater." I leaned forward. "You done?" Talia looked at me. "Go ahead." I slid my own folder across the table. Sales, up 17%. Product returns, down 9. On-time shipping, up 12. Customer complaints, cut in half. And employee turnover, lowest in 6 years. I clicked the remote. The screen changed to graphs, all up and to the right. Curtis interrupted. "At what cost? You've destroyed the chain of command. There's no structure left. It's a free-for-all." I looked him dead in the eye. "So let's find out how the people feel about it." Talia raised an eyebrow. "How do you mean?" "Company-wide anonymous survey," I said. "Independent firm. Employees rate leadership, culture, and direction. Let them speak for themselves." Curtis scoffed. "You want a popularity contest?" I want clarity," the board whispered among themselves. Then Talia turned back. "Do it. Third party, fully anonymous. We'll reconvene when results are in." Curtis sank back into his chair like he'd been slapped. Later that night, I found a plain envelope on my desk. No return address, just a USB drive inside. I plugged it in, scanned it for viruses, then opened the folder. Dozens of PDF files, email threads, project logs, proof every patent Curtis had stripped my name from. Every design review where he rerouted credit to his inner circle. One folder labeled internal drafts even showed Morgan's original memos. With my initials in the concept notes, Cam must have had access, maybe others. I stared at the screen for a long time. Could have buried him with this, dragged him through legal hell, but I didn't. I encrypted the drive and locked it in my drawer. If the truth ever needed proof, I had it. But I wasn't building anything on revenge. I was busy building something better. The day before survey results came back, Ava stepped into my office with 2 coffees and that unreadable look she always had before dropping something heavy. "You knew about the USB?" I asked. She nodded. "Figured it would find you." "You trust me with this much." She sat down. "I trusted you before you ever had a title. Night of the roast, when Curtis threw that pie in your face, I already knew what was coming. I backed you on purpose. I blinked. Why? Because you give a damn, and because this place is better with you in charge, whether they see it yet or not. I looked at the USB drive in the drawer. I don't want to win by gutting someone else, she smiled. Good, because you're already winning. The survey results landed on a Thursday. Ava forwarded the summary with one line. It's a landslide. 92% of employees said they supported the rotation initiative. 87 said leadership was more accessible and trustworthy than ever. Positive words came up over and over again. Heard, valued, motivated. We presented the results at the next board meeting. I stood at the front with Cam and Ava, each of us holding one piece of the full report. Curtis sat to the side, arms crossed like he'd already decided the numbers were fake. This was never about popularity, I said, keeping my voice even. It's about proof, results, culture that works. He leaned forward. These numbers are manipulated. You incentivize participation. Your people pushed a narrative. A voice from the corner cut in. Alonzo, mid-level engineer, not even supposed to be in the room. No one pushed me, he said. I've been here 9 years and never once got asked what I think, until now. Then Sarah from tech support stood up. Curtis demoted me after I spoke up in a meeting. She gave me a raise and told me to keep talking. One after another, more people stepped forward. Nothing dramatic, just straight facts. Missed promotions, credits stolen, ideas buried. Curtis stayed quiet. He didn't fight. He just nodded slowly, sat back, and smiled like he was done trying in public. He wasn't. 2 weeks later, a major supplier shipment came in with contaminated parts, tiny traces of metal shavings mixed into the silicone seal. Not enough to kill someone, but enough to destroy 6 pallets of product and force a production shutdown. No clear trail, no direct link. But the order system had been rerouted through a login we hadn't used in months, one assigned to a former Curtis ally, now consulting from the outside. I brought Ava and Cam into my office and shut the door. I want to catch them, not guess. Catch them. Ava leaned forward. How? Cam already had an idea. What if we bait them? We sketched out a trap, a fake component. Useless but realistic. A fake prototype using that component. Then a fake spec sheet with just enough error to wreck a full batch if it got ordered. We uploaded it to a hidden folder on the system, labeled urgent, restricted, internal R&D only. Then we waited. 4 days later, someone accessed it from a ghost terminal. 3 days after that, a purchase request popped up, cleared through a shadow vendor not on the approved list. Bingo. Cam installed monitoring software on the ghost terminal. Ava quietly cross-referenced the bank details on the order with an offshore account tied to one of Curtis's old consultants. We had them. That Friday, I walked into the lab, found Cam adjusting the real prototype, and nodded once. It's time. We scheduled a Monday morning ops meeting and made sure Curtis's people were there. Ava printed the fake invoice chain and slid it in with the real reports. Cam played the login trace live from the terminal. Dead silence. Then I stepped up. This wasn't a mistake. This was an attempt to sabotage production with planted components. Curtis didn't speak, but one of his guys turned pale. Another tried to stand up, but Talia, who'd quietly joined the back of the room, raised her hand to stop him. We're conducting a full internal audit, she said, effective immediately. Curtis finally looked at me. But this time, no smugness, just calculation. He knew I'd beaten him at his own game, and I wasn't even done yet. We didn't wait. That same afternoon, I called for an emergency board meeting. No advisors, no consultants, just the core. I walked into the room with Ava, Cam, and a locked case holding every piece of evidence. Curtis was already there, acting like none of it touched him, buttoned up in his tailored blazer, sipping coffee like he was just tired of all the drama. Talia opened it. You said there was something urgent to share. I nodded to Cam, who set up the projector. Ava handed out copies of the printed packet, 38 pages of straight fire. I didn't waste time. Let's start with the purchase orders. All 3 were routed through off-list vendors, authorized by dormant login credentials tied to a terminated account. Here's the timeline. Slide 1, the access log. Slide 2, internal request chain, manipulated to bypass purchasing checks. Slide 3, surveillance footage. Curtis's old consultant walking into our regional facility 2 weeks before the contaminated shipment hit. Then came the fake component trail, matching IP addresses, offshore payment transfers, mirrored order confirmations to a ghost inbox Cam had tracked for days. I finished with the kicker, a side-by-side chart showing how, even after the sabotage, we'd pivoted production in under 6 days and beat our quarterly output target by 15%. Silence. Curtis still didn't speak. Talia was the one who broke it. "Do you deny any of this?" He stood, slow and casual, like it was beneath him to even answer. "These are fabricated, circumstantial at best. There's no direct proof I authorized any of it." I stared at him. "You're right. You didn't sign anything. You let other people take the fall. Same as always." He turned to the board. "I built this company's external image. I was the face that brought in contracts. This leadership," he waved a hand at me like I was a stray dog, "has taken everything off the rails. You'll regret turning it into a workshop playground." Talia didn't flinch. "Curtis, you're suspended indefinitely. Effective immediately." He froze. "You'll be referred to legal review for internal sabotage. Shareholder voting rights revoked, pending investigation." His mouth opened like he had something clever ready. But nothing came out. Ava stood and opened the door. "Security's waiting." Curtis didn't move until 2 guards stepped inside. Then, with one final glance my way, he left. Didn't speak, didn't look back. The next morning, I got to the office at 6 a.m. The front desk clerk high-fived me on the way in. Warehouse leads were already coordinating volunteer cross-training shifts. One of the senior engineers had brought a whiteboard into the break room and started sketching layout improvements with a mechanic from assembly. No silos, no titles, no gatekeeping. People started knocking on my door just to pitch ideas again. Real ones, fixes, not fluff. 2 tech support agents designed a faster ticket triage system. Cam helped a field rep build a real-time error reporting app that shaved hours off our feedback loop. Ava launched a profit-sharing initiative with legal to reward team-level innovation. We weren't just functioning, we were flying. At the next board check-in, I presented the new quarterly report. Sales, up. Productivity, up. Worker retention, record-breaking. When the board unanimously renewed my contract, I didn't even smile. I just nodded and said, "Let's keep moving." Because truth is, I didn't want a crown. I wanted control. Of my name, of my work, of what this company could actually be when people weren't afraid to show up. Now I had it, and I wasn't giving it back. The ballroom smelled like pine and buttercream. Twinkling lights ran along the ceiling beams, and half the staff wore ugly sweaters over company polos. Cam had just spiked the punch. Ava was passing around slices of red velvet cake, and then I saw him. Curtis, standing near the back, just inside the door. Same smug walk, same expensive watch. Except now, it looked a little tight on his wrist. He didn't belong here. I handed Ava my plate and walked straight over. "You weren't invited. I just want 5 minutes. Make it 1. He glanced around like the walls might be listening. "I want out. I'll sell my shares. Quietly. Just give me a fair buyout. No lawsuits, no public drama." I folded my arms. "You don't have voting power. You've got paper and memories." His face dropped for a second. Just a flicker. Then he leaned in. "You've made your point. You won. You've changed everything. But I put in years here. I gave this place everything I had." I raised my voice just enough for the people nearby to hear. "You took everything you could until there was nothing left to steal. You want out? Call your attorney. I'll give you a number. Take it or walk away empty." He opened his mouth again, but I held up a slice of cake on a napkin and smiled. "Here. Thought you might appreciate the full circle moment." Curtis looked at it, then at me, eyes full of something bitter I'd seen before, just never aimed this directly. Security was already moving. Ava gave the nod. He took a breath like he wanted to say more, but didn't. He walked out with the same cheap pride he always wore when he lost control. I gave the room a minute to settle, then I stepped up onto the low stage near the dance floor. "Most of you know where I started. Some of you worked the same shift I did. Night janitorial, West warehouse, freezing winters. I didn't come up the easy way, but the hard way taught me what matters. Your hands, your brain, your people. That's how we build. That's how we lead. Together." The applause hit like a slow clap and rolled across the room. I didn't stay long. I never liked parties. By 9, I was back in my office. Quiet, warm, peaceful. I opened the cabinet and took out my first prototype, A busted hinge system with tape holding one side in place. Crude as hell. But mine. Not for credit, not for revenge. Just proof that I was here. And I built this place the right way.